Yeah, hello. Welcome to the first video on JDBC. So here we are going to discuss introduction to JDBC and what is the need for JDBC, what is the architecture of JDBC, and we'll see different type of drivers used in JDBC. Okay? Yeah, let's continue now. So after designing our application UI user interface with HTML, the next step is we need to write business logic. So if you want to write business logic, we have to use JDBC to talk to any database like MySQL, Oracle, or SQL Server, or any other database. Okay, so let us see what is JDBC first. JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity, and it's a standard Java API for database independent connectivity between Java programming language as well as to other databases. So for all the databases, it is going to support, irrespective of it might be Oracle or MySQL. You take any database, including MS Access, we are able to connect. Okay. So what is this JDBC library contains? Means it includes APIs for each of the commonly tasks associated with the database usage. Like making a connection to database, the first thing is we are establishing connection to the database. If that is okay, then only we'll think of other activities like how to create SQL or MySQL statements. Like, are you going to create statement like create statement or insert or update or delete? CRUD operations. For all these operations, what to do? First, we need to write some SQL statement. Once it is ready, then we are going to execute those statements in the database. So how to execute? We'll see with a couple of examples. Like we have something called execute method, execute update method, and there is something called execute query method. Okay, so using all these three methods, we are going to execute the queries in the database, and sometimes we fetch the data and we display the data to the end user. That is said to be viewing and modifying the resulting records. So every time we might not display the results, like we are inserting data, like registration of student. We are filling the details of student, and as soon as student click on submit button, we are going to execute the query in the database, like inserting record, and we'll come back. By the time we'll not display any result, like viewing or displaying won't be done. Just we'll say registration success message. But sometimes, suppose if student is asking his or her information based on their roll number. So if they enter roll number, click on show button, then I need to display their details, their name, age, mobile number, email ID, branch, all these details. In that case, we are going to view the data. Or sometimes, they're going to modify the data as well, like mobile number they need to update or email ID they need to update. So these all operations are possible with the JDBs. Is it clear? Yeah. So fundamentally, JDBC is a specification that provides a complete set of interfaces. So we have a set of interfaces used in built-in interfaces used in JDBC. We'll see one by one. Okay. Yeah. And then Java can be used to write different types of executables such as, so we can create or we can use JDBC with these all applications. We can use Java application like basic core Java programs, followed by Java applets and servlets, and so Java server pages, JSPs, and EJBs, enterprise Java beans. Nowadays, very few people are using EJBs. People are going for something like Spring and Hibernate today. Okay. So for all these different type of Java applications, you can make use of JDBC. Okay. Yeah. So all of these different executables use JDBC driver to access database and take advantage of the stored data. So here all these applications are talking to database or interacting with the data which is stored in the database with the help of JDBC driver. So JDBC driver is going to play a key role while talking to the database. Okay. And JDBC provides the same capabilities as ODBC. So ODBC stands for Open Database Connectivity. So that is said to be, one of the oldest technologies to talk to database, ODBC. And still JDBC Type 1 driver uses ODBC in the background. Okay. Yeah. So like that, it is going to work and allowing Java programs to contain database independent code. So the code which you are writing is common, whether I use a MySQL or Oracle or any other database. Suddenly you are changing your database from MySQL to Oracle. Yes, absolutely it is okay. Just you need to change the driver. You need not change the whole code. Okay. So that is the point we need to remember. Now let us see what is the architecture of JDBC. So what it contains? So it supports both two-tier, three-tier architecture models for database access. In general, JDBC architecture consists of two layers. What are the two layers? JDBC API and then JDBC driver API. These are the two layers that you can find in JDBC architecture. So what is JDBC API? It provides application to JDBC manager connection. So the application talks to the JDBC manager, not to the database directly. Okay, then who will talk to the database? Driver API, the second one. So JDBC manager is talking to driver. So driver is talking to database. This is the cycle actually. The link is like clear, huh? So JDBC API is talking to our application to manager, and manager is talking to driver. So driver is talking to database. See this? JDBC API uses a driver manager and database specific drivers to provide transparent connectivity to heterogeneous databases. So JDBC driver manager ensures that the correct driver is used to access each data source. Data source means data server. Okay, server is nothing but data source. So it checks whether the person is using correct driver or not. If he's using a wrong driver or the driver is not found in our machine, it will show you class not found exception. I'll tell you that how to do when we go to example. And the driver manager is capable of supporting multiple concurrent drivers connected to multiple heterogeneous databases. If you're talking to different databases, it might be different databases means one data I'm fetching from MySQL, another data I'm fetching from Oracle. Like that also we can do, or only one database, but we have two data, one software database like MySQL, but we have two different databases I created for my project. So both I wanted to use. So that is also possible. That is said to be we can connect multiple concurrent drivers to multiple databases. So this is the actual architecture diagram of JDBC. So we are writing our own application, Java program. It might be core Java program, or you take anything like JSP application, whatever. So that is talking to what? JDBC API. So what is this API? API is nothing but group of packages. So what are the packages we use in JDBC? So we have two packages actually. One is java.sql sql.star, and another one is javax.sql.star. These two are packages which comes under JDBC API. So our Java application is talking to JDBC API. This is talking to driver manager of JDBC. So as I said, your application cannot talk to the database directly. It is talking to JDBC API. API is talking to driver manager. Driver manager is again talking to JDBC respective driver. If I'm using Oracle, I'll talk to the Oracle driver. If I'm using MySQL, MySQL driver. SQL Server means SQL Server driver. Any other driver means we go for that respective driver. Like ODBC driver means ODBC. Okay. So like this, every driver manager of JDBC is talking to the respective driver in order to establish connection to the respective database. So if you wanted to talk to any table, then we have to go for driver manager. Driver manager is talking to driver. So which driver I need to choose? That is depends upon the requirement and the performance. We have different pros and cons for all the drivers. We'll see one by one. Okay. So this happens for all Java applications, whether we use core Java application or advanced Java like JSP or any other Spring or Hibernate, we follow the same. If you use JDBC, but when come Hibernate, it's a different again. ORM, that is said to be Object Relational Mapping Tool. It's more easier than this. Okay, yeah. So now we'll see what are the common JDBC components that we have. The topmost thing is driver manager. So what is this driver manager contains? It contains a list of database drivers, and it matches the connection request from Java application with the proper database driver using communication subprotocol. So either it is using proper or not, it is going to check. And if the driver manager sees that the respective driver is suitable to the specified URL, both are actually suitable, then it will continue. The first driver that is recognize a certain sub-protocol JDBC will be established database connections. Yeah, of course. When you establish for the first time, what driver manager is going to see? It is checking the URL of your driver name and everything. If the respective user ID, password, and database name, if all are correct, then it goes to the next step. That is talking to driver. What is driver is doing? It handles the communication with the database server. So driver is talking to database. Okay, and you will interact directly with driver objects very rarely. But we never talk to driver. We always talk to driver manager. So driver manager interns talk to driver. That is what he said. Instead, we use driver manager objects, which manages objects of this type. It also abstracts the details associated with working with the driver objects. So our application is talking to driver is manager is talking to driver, and driver is talking to database. So how do we establish connection to database? Means we need to use an interface called connection. So every time we need to write a connection, con is equal to, so or cn is equal to, object name can be anything. Driver manager dot get connection like that, we'll call a method. Inside that, we'll write all these details. Username, password, database name, all these things, server name, port number, all these we'll write. So the connection object, what is this connection object is going to do? It represents communication context. That is, all communication with the database is happening through connection object only. So connection object is playing a key role. So once the connection is established, so how do I know that connection is established? If connection object is having null, the connection is not established. Simple. If the connection object is having not null, means it contains something, so that connection is established successfully. So we need to make sure that connection object is not equal to null. Not equal to null means connection is established. So once the connection is established, then we are thinking of the respective activities. Are we going to do, insert, excuse me, inserting or updating or deleting or displaying data. So all these operations can be done with what? Statement object. So what is statement? Like whatever queries we are writing, it might be insert statement or update, insert query or update or delete or select, whatever. So that we write inside statement object. Okay, sometimes we'll be taking something called prepared statement. I'll tell you what is the difference between statement object and prepared statement later. We have some differences in terms of performance. We'll see that later. And after establishing connection, we are thinking of which statement you wanted to execute or which query you wanted to execute in the database. Okay. Some interfaces access parameters in addition to executing stored procedures. Like we have something called callable statement. If you want to execute any procedure in the backend, I mean any stored procedure in the backend, then we can use something called a callable statement. Actually, there we are going to execute stored procedures. So what are stored procedures? Stored procedures are nothing but like a programs in database. Okay, like how we are doing programs in our programming language like Java, .NET, or Python. Same way, we can write a set of statements as a group, as a program in a database as well. That is called as stored procedure. So if you want to run that procedure, then also we can make use of statements. Okay. Yes. Next, result set. Once the statement is executed, so we are going to create a result set and we store the retrieved data inside the result set itself. So in which case we use result set? For example, I'm executing insert statement. Insert statement means what? Like a registration form. Then no need to go for result set because we are inserting and coming back without any record. We are not getting any record from the database. We are just inserting in the database record and we are coming back. That's all. Then no need to go for results. Updating data, no need to go for results. Deleting, So for all these insert, update, delete operations, we need not go for results. Then in which case we'll go for it? Suppose I wanted to display the data to the user. How many students got registered for this particular course or branch? Then we write a query. Select star from students where branch is equal to CSE. Then we will be getting a list of rows, records. Then we need a result set. Got it? Huh? So result set is used whenever we have an option of displaying data, fetching data from the database. Then only result set will be used. So result set is optional in every program that we write in JDBC. Okay. So you may use or you may not use result set. But these are all compulsory. Driver manager is must, driver is must, connection statement, and result set is depends upon the query we are writing. We use result set. Okay. So what is this result set actually? It's a temporary buffer in which we are retrieving data from database and stores these set of rows inside results. And we'll work on it. We'll iterate from first row to last row. Once we display the data on the form or on our application, just will close the results so that it will be vanished from memory. So just simply getting stored in client's memory space. Okay. Yeah. And then finally, SQL exception. We have to handle any database errors occurs, any issues like I've given something like a duplicate record in database. Already there we have 1001 student roll number. Again, I gave 1001. Then we got error, primary key issue. So that message I wanted to display. Who will display that message? SQL exception, SQL exception. Okay. Yeah, this is handled with SQL exception. And apart from this SQL exception, we'll also write something called a class not found exception, which is taking care of driver manager, driver issues. Suppose I'm using something like type 1 driver, but that is not there in my machine. Or type 4 driver is there, but that is not matched to whatever I have installed in my system. Then you'll be getting error. So that will be handled with what? Class not found exception. Okay. So these are the activities we do. What are the packages we have in JDBC? Java.sql and javax.sql. So these two are the packages that we use. So mostly we use the first one, import java.sql.star. Like that we'll write it. And we'll continue. Okay, Java x.sql.star is in JDBC 3.0, they started it. Okay, yeah. See, creating JDBC application. How to create a JDBC application? We want to start with the JDBC program. What is the first thing that we need? Stepwise, if you see, first thing is we need to import the packages. Okay, like as I said, we need to import Java dot, using import java.sql.star will be sufficient. Of course, we have other database, other package as well, but mostly we use this in almost all, applications. And register the JDBC driver. So what is this registration of JDBC driver? That will be done with class.forName method. We write it. So that we initialize driver so that you can open communications with the channel with the database. So if you want to create establish connection, before establishing connection itself, we have to register the driver. Then only we are able to do this. Then open connection. Once the registration of driver is done, you go for opening connection. How to open connection? Using driver manager.get connection. So driver manager is the method, is the interface, get connection is the method. So to create connection object which represent physical connection with the database. Who will establish physical connection? This driver manager or get connection with connection object. Connection CN is equal to driver manager dot get connection. Within get connection method, we need to pass the URL through which URL you are going to talk to the database. Like username, port number is there, 1521 or something will be there. Okay, 3306 is there for MySQL. We'll write that port number, username and password, all these things we need to specify in URL. Okay, and then what do? We need to execute a query. So it can be any statement, SQL statement. It might be insert or update or delete or select, whatever. Once the query is executed, then as I said we need to extract the data from the result set. What is this? This happens only when you are writing select query. Select query contains rows now. Those rows I need to display. So how to display? So result set dot get x method means get integer. We'll write rs. Suppose result set object is rs. Rs dot get integer. If we have integer type column in my database. No, sir, I have a var column, string column, then get string will be used. No, sir, I have a number with the decimal places, what to do? Get double method will be used. Hope you got it, huh? So depends upon the data you are fetching from database. I mean type of column, we need to use the respective get method of result set. So rs.get integer, rs.get string, rs.get double, like that we'll write it. Once the work is over, once we displayed the data to the user, then we are going to do the cleanup activity, that is closing result sets. Rs.close and connection close, cn dot close, like that we'll write all the things. Statement is there means st dot close, like that we'll write it. So this are to be cleaning up the environment. So requires explicitly closing all database resources versus relying on the JVM's garbage collection. Instead of depends upon JVM garbage collection, we are simply closing manually. So this is said to be the way to create JDBC application. So every time the first thing is we have to import the java.sql.star followed by class dot for name, and we need to write the driver name, and after that we need to open connection with the driver manager.get connection object where we are passing URL. Once it is done, we are writing a query to be executed. After executing this query with execute, there are three methods in JDBC. One is execute method, execute query, and execute update. So by means of these three, we are executing the query. Once the query is having any result set, then we create a result set. I mean, result set means group of rows. We create a result set and we read the data using get integer or get double or get string. Finally, we are closing all the connections. So this is what we do for every JDBC application. Okay. Now let's switch to something called different types of drivers we have in JDBC. So what are the different type of drivers we have and how to use them? We have some pros and cons for JDBC drivers. We'll discuss. So JDBC drivers means there are four types of drivers available in JDBC. Like first one is type 1 driver, second one is type 2, and third one is type 3 and type 4. Simple. Or else we have some names also. JDBC type 1 driver is also called as JDBC bridge driver. JDBC, ODBC bridge driver, like that people will say. Okay, we'll see all these things one by one. First, let us talk about the architecture of JDBC. So I already told you, in a simple way, we are writing Java application or project. It's talking to what? JDBC. JDBC is talking to what? Driver. Driver is talking to database, and this applies in the reverse process as well. So database is giving data to driver, driver is giving to JDBC, JDBC is giving to application. This is what happens in every JDBC application. Now we are talking about the first type of driver, which is said to be type 1 driver. So what is type 1 driver? It translates all JDBC calls into ODBC calls and sends them to ODBC driver. Okay, this is also known as JDBC ODBC bridge driver. So what it is doing? Just it is taking data from our application, simply giving it to whom? To ODBC. So what is ODBC? ODBC is a generic API. It is not belongs to Java or Oracle Corporation or Sun Microsystems. It's a separate generic API. And remember, this is only submitting data to ODBC. If ODBC is not able to do proper action or inserting data or updating or something is wrong with the ODBC, this cannot be helpful to you. So that is why this is only recommended only for experimental use or when no other alternative is available. If you don't have any other alternative available, then we go for type 100. So it's a basic model. Actually, this is widely used one in Windows XP operating system. There it was too good. We create a DSN in we go to control panel, we create a data source name, and then we'll create it. So that is talking to database directly. So that was very good when we go for Windows XP. But today it is there, but it's not working that much good. Okay, that is a type 1 drive. And if you look at the architecture of type 1 driver, so we are creating Java application. Our program is talking to JDBC API and then bridge driver. What is this bridge driver? Type 1 driver. Type 1 driver is also known as bridge driver in a shortcut. And that is talking to what? ODBC. What is this ODBC? Is a generic API, as I said you. What it contains? It contains something called DSN, which stands for data source name. So this we have to create by going to control panel. We have something called data sources. In that we need to create ODBC data sources will be there. There we need to go and create a new DSN, and DSN name it will ask you. You need to type your name as DSN name, and then we need to specify the database to be interacted with. To which database you want to talk to. Either it is Oracle or MySQL or whatever you need to specify. Okay, that is a DSN. Once the DSN is created and it is working, then driver is talking to database and it will fetch data back to ODBC, driver to DSN, DSN to bridge driver to JDBC, then application. See the number of layers, if you see, there are many more layers. That is why this is the slowest driver of all the types of JDBC. Let's see pros and cons. What is the advantage? Bridge driver allows to access to almost any database. So it was good, as I said you earlier, if it is able to connect to all the database, we can use for all the databases. Okay, because ODBC drivers are already available by default. But today, if you see only one or two SQL Server, it is giving for Windows 10. MS Access, these two are given by Microsoft, but others are not there when you go for Windows 10. Okay, and then disadvantages. Bridge driver is not written fully in Java. It is not written by Java, so it's completely ODBC driver, Open Database Connectivity. So type 1 drivers are not portable when you're switching from one OS to another OS is a problem. It might not be used. And a performance issue seen as JDBC calls goes through bridge driver to the ODBC driver, then to the database, and this applies even the reverse process. So they are the slowest of all driver types. So which is the slowest driver? Type 1 driver. Simple. Because we have so many layers available, there are so many layers in between application and the database. So the client system requires the ODBC installation to use the driver. They have to install or they need to create, as I said, you one DS and then only it will work. And not good for the web. If you are designing, web-based applications like servlets and JSP application, this is not suggestible. Of course, it works, but not suggestible. Then type 2 driver. So what is this type 2 driver? It is written by vendor. In the sense, vendor specific driver. Suppose vendor specific means whoever is creating database, those people are writing this driver. So this can be used by us. Of course, we can download explicitly and install in our system. At the same time, the client, whoever is using our application, they also need to download and install in their system. Then only it will work. No, that is said to be native API part Java driver. Means what? This is completely written by the specific vendor of the database. They will say that we know better than Java. We write our own classes to talk to our database. Like that, they say they create it. But the problem with this is the portability issues will come when you're switching from one database to another. Suppose we have taken a driver from Oracle database, but suddenly our company has decided to switch to MySQL, then it's a problem. This driver will not work for MySQL because we are downloaded for Oracle. Na? Again, we need to go for MySQL and then go for the specific driver and then we need to do it. Then only it will work. So that is the problem. See, the distinctive characteristic of type 2 drivers are type 2 drivers convert JDBC calls into database specific calls. That is, driver is specific to a particular database. As I said, either it is for MySQL or Oracle, not for all. Okay. Some distinctive characteristic types of drivers is shown below. Oracle will have Oracle native API. They have their own drivers. Okay. Like Oracle OCA driver was there, very old one people were using. Nowadays, nobody is using type 2. So everybody is using what is the latest and what is the suggestible driver is type 4. Everybody is doing application using type 4 only because that is the fastest driver and pure Java driver, you can say. Okay. Completely written in Java. Yeah. What is type 2 driver architecture? Java application is talking to JDBC API is common. Native API driver. This is native to the respective API, which is written by vendor specific. And that API driver is talking to API. API is talking to database. Here also we have layers, but compared with the type 1, we have less number of layers so that it is faster than type 1. That distinctive characteristics type 2 drivers are they are typically offer better performance than JDBC ODBC bridge driver as the number of communication tiers are less than the type 1. Okay, and also uses native API, which is database based. This is the advantage of it. Drawbacks, you can see so many. Native API must be installed in client system and then cannot be used for internet, and like type 1 drivers is not written in Java language because written by whom? Vendor. So it is not written in Java, which forms a portability issue. When you move from OS to OS, it might not work properly. And if you change the database, we have to change the native API as well, as because it is specific to database. So Oracle driver won't work for MySQL, MySQL driver won't work for SQL Server. That is the issue. Mostly obsolete, is not used by people today, usually not let's say. So this is the drawbacks of type 2 driver. So now we are going to type 3 JDBC. This is also good driver, one of the best drivers in JDBC. But we need to install an external server to work with it. Middle tier server is required. So this can be there, in software companies, development people will use this server and they can use this type 3 driver. So we can enjoy the benefits of server, but if server is down now, we can't talk to the database itself because server is every request will go to server, from server to other systems, other database it is going to connect. So that is said to be This is also a bit lengthy in terms of number of layers or more. But since we have the benefits of server, we can enjoy and we can use it for a good purpose. Okay, but explicitly maintaining a server is also burden to the companies. So that is why very few people recommend this type of driver. Okay, type 3 database requests are passed to network to the middle tier server. So whenever we submit a request like inserting or updating or any other query, first it goes to middle tier server. The middle tier then translates the request to the database. So where is database? Database might be in another database server or in the same machine. It depends upon the company. So if they go for separate machine for database, then it has to talk to the database server. And middle tier server then in turn uses type 1, 2, or 4. So again in middle tier server, what we install? We install type 1 or 2 or 4. So it contains two servers, two database. So we have to install type 3 driver followed by the middle tier server can have type 1, 2, or 4 drivers so that it's lengthy. Let's look at this type 3 driver architecture. Java application is talking to JDBC API. Again, it is talking to type 3 driver. This is talking to middleware component that is Apache Tomcat. We use some servers, middleware servers. So this server is again talking to database. Database means it might have in the separate server, database server again. So two servers. So client is talking to type 3 talking to server. Server might have again type 1, 2, or 4 that is talking to database. So here also we have number of layers more, but we have some advantages. More advantages are there with type 3. What are the advantages? This driver is server based, so there is no need to for any vendor database library required like a type 2 driver. We need not download and install vendor specific library. Number one. Number two, this driver is fully written in Java, hence portable. So suitable for the web. So if you're developing web applications, it is portable and we can use it in our application. And there are many opportunities to optimize portability, performance, and scalability. So because these are all server features, we can enjoy all these server features. Like here you can see load balancing, advanced system administration, logging, auditing, all are possible because of the type 3 driver is using an external server or um, a container, web component or web container. Net protocol can be used to make client JDBC driver very small and fast to load. So it makes it faster. And the driver is very much flexible, allows access to multiple databases. This is a unique feature that you never forget. So what is type 3 driver advantage means this you can see. This is not there in type 4 driver as well. Number 6. This point you need to remember. So this driver is very much flexible, allows access to multiple databases using one driver. So only one driver is talking to many databases simultaneously. So this is only possible in type 3 driver. Okay. And they are the most efficient amongst all the driver types. Out of all four, this is also good. Like performance wise, if you see fastest is type 4. The next speed driver is type 3 compare with the type 1 and 2. Okay, type 1, 2 almost are obsolete, nobody's using. So we need to think of type 3 and 4. But for our application as a student, we always go to type. So what is the drawback of type 3? Let us look at the last. It requires another server application to install and maintain. So we have to install another server to run this job. Traversing the record set may take longer since the data comes through a backend server. So backend server data is going to server, middle tier server to client means definitely it is taking a little bit slow. Okay, but this is faster than type 2 and 1, but definitely there might be performance issue because the server is busy sometimes doing some other external activities. Definitely it might be slow. You can't directly talk to database and fetch the data, but that is happening in type 4 driver. So now we'll switch to type 4 driver. So what is this? It is also known as native protocol or all Java driver. It's completely written Java. It is also known as a thin driver, thin thin driver. Okay. So type 4 uses Java networking libraries to communicate directly with the database server. So this driver is directly talking to database. There is no middle tier server. There is no another type of type 1, 2 or any other. Nothing is there. So directly it is talking to database. That is why it is the fastest driver among all the drivers in JDBC. So type 4 driver, Java application JDBC API is common. Then thin driver or type 4 driver is talking to directly database. That's all through native protocol. Protocol means we should have some port. Port number will be given at the time of installation. Just we use the port number, URL, user ID password, that's all. There is no extra thing that we need to establish or create inside. Like no need to create data source name, no need to download and install any vendor specific library, and no need to install a external server. So all the three are not required. That is why thin, lightweight, and very fastest driver compared with others. And this is completely written in Java so that it is having platform independence. Nothing but uh, you can use it in any operating system. Advantage. There are so many benefits. Only one problem is the user needs a different driver for each database. Suppose when I'm talking to two databases, like I'm talking to suppose loan application is there, which is talking to bank database is one database because I need to check his account and his transaction, how he's doing and how much amount is credited to his account, his or her account depends upon the company salary. So for that, I need to talk to bank database. And another database I need to talk to is CIBIL score. We have CIBIL score in India. So based on the score only, if the score is above 700, 750 above means, he's maintaining a good score. So that will allow him to, he's eligible for loan. Less than 500 or something means score is less. So we are not allowing him to take the loan from our bank. So in that case, we need to talk to two databases. One is civil database, second one is bank database. In that case, we need to take two drivers if you use type 4 driver. But if you go for a type 3 driver with one driver, we can finish both of them. Okay, so that is how it is only the drawback of type 4. Advantages, let us see. The major benefit of using type 4 drivers are that they are completely written in Java to achieve platform independence and eliminate deployment issues, administration issues. Most suitable for the web. So if you're developing web application using Java Server Pages, JSP, the best choice is type 4 driver. The number of translation layers are very less. That is why type 4 drivers are faster and they don't have to translate database requests to ODBC or native connectivity interfaces. Okay, and so like type 2 is asking for native library, database specific library. Type 1 is asking for ODBC, so nothing is required. And you don't need to install specific software on the client or server. For that, there is these drivers can be downloaded dynamically. So this is the best feature of type 4 driver. We need not install any software. Like no need to install any external server. So that is why advantages, these are many advantages of type 4 driver. Only one problem with type 4 is we can't talk to two, three databases or different databases separately with one driver. That is the difference. Okay. So this is all about different drivers in JDBs.